Tonight we're going to be installing it's the Apeman C420 dash cam into my WRX. It's just a small, there it goes, powering up. Small little dash cam that records on a loop. We're going to hardwire it in. That way we don't have any exposed wires. Be similar to the last video where I installed the radar detector. This one is just going to mount, I'm thinking right next to it, somewhere up here. That way it'll start up with the car, it'll start recording whenever I start the car, and yeah, and we won't have any annoying wires coming down. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're gonna tap our power off of the dome light up here. It's not actually off of the dome light. It's going to be the power that is for the mirror here. If you have the powered mirror, it's just accessible from the dome light. So the first thing we have to do, if you can see here on the lights, is there's a little divot. And so we're going to get our pry tool on each one, pop those out, and then this whole lens will come out, exposing 2 Phillips head screws. And we can take those screws out and then pry out the whole plastic assembly here. And then we'll have access to our wires up there. So let me grab the pry tool. So you just want to take your little pry tool. I got these in a kit on Amazon, just to make sure we're not scratching any plastic. And you want to get it in there. I like to give it a little sideways turn. Try to pry it down. You can see that. And then there we go. It does want to just drop out, so try to catch it if you can. Now, if you can see in there, we've exposed 2 Phillips head screws, one on this side and one on this side, so we're going to go ahead and take those out. So this is just kind of repeating the same process as in the radar detector install. I was just waiting for a few parts to come in for the dash cam. That way I could still drive the car. I closed it all back up. It's really easy to get back into, so I wasn't going to leave it open while we waited. The part I was waiting for is you are going to need a 12 volt to 5 volt little line converter, because a majority of dash cams actually run off of 5 volts and not 12. So with your radar detector, it's commonly 12, so that's why you're able to tap straight into the 12 volt switching power. But with the dash cam being 5 volt, you need that converter so that you don't send too much voltage to your new dash cam. So again, I just start on the back side towards the back seats, prying this down, and then now that I've got it down, I can just unhinge it from that front side and pull it down. So now we are inside and we have access to where the wires come through from the mirror. This is our power converter. It just has 2 wires on the one end, and that's where you're going to input your 12 volt power, and then it outputs actually right to what we need, 5 volts on a micro USB, and that'll plug straight into the dash cam, and it'll charge the dash cam, and it'll give it the switching power to turn it on and off with the vehicle. So that is what we're going to be installing. We're going to actually tap into it using these tap splices. They're a very handy little splice kit. You put your addition wire all the way stubbed in here on that left side, and then you actually, the wire you're trying to attach it to you just lay it in that groove so that you don't have to cut the existing wire at all, and then you just pinch that down with a pair of pliers, and then you can close the whole thing up. And then I always throw a wrap of tape around them, so it's a very nice install. And you don't have to cut and try to pigtail any of your wires together. So if you can see up in here, here's our wiring harness from the radar kit. I'm going to adjust it so we can pull it out a little farther, get some working room. I'm actually going to tap it onto our new pin addition. That way I don't have to split open the factory harness. If you don't have this pin out though, it's not that difficult. You can get enough accessible wire here and you can tap into the 12-volt power. To get a little more accessible room, there's a clip back here. We just want to pry this whole piece down. That way we can see that it just pops right out, and then it gives us room from the front side to fish our wires down this. And this guy just comes out by sliding it down and prying it away at the base. And there you go. Your little wire mold is off. Alright, so here you have it. This is the whole wiring power kit for the radar detector. If you wanted to get just this wire, I think it's like $10 on Amazon. It might be worth it. You can probably find, maybe I'll do a search and I'll put it in the description for a link to an item for something with just these pins that you could splice your converter to, because it does make it very handy going into the back of the harness with the pins, and being able to make sure you get a good clean splice out in front of you instead of trying to do it up in the air. So it's very simple to use these. We're just gonna take our cutters. I'm gonna cut the pre-stripped end off, because you do not need any stripped wire for these connectors. It does it all on its own. So we're going to take our wire we are wanting to crimp, and we're going to slide it in that left socket, and then the hollow side is where we are going to attach what would be our existing wire, because normally that would be plugged in, and we are going to attach that there. So with both of those resting in there where they should be, you want to just take your pliers and crimp that silver piece down. So as you can see, they are staying in there, they're not tugging out. That silver piece crimped down, and you want to just close that top bracket over it. And so now that our black wire has been T-tapped onto our black probe, which will now give power to our converter once we do it to the positive side also. Do that real quick. So you just slide it all the way in, the wire you're adding. Lay your existing wire in the side. and crimp. Close it, give it a tug test, make sure you've got a good connection. So now our harness is tapped in with our line converter, and the only thing we'll have to do is get this out by the mirror to power our dash cam. So as you can see here on the back side of the harness that goes down to the mirror, the wires that you'd want to be tapping into is the white wire, which is right there in the middle of the 5. That is your positive 12 volt, and the black wire is your negative 12 volt. So yeah, you want to just make sure that you're tapping your red to the white and your black to the black, and that is your switchable 12 volt DC. Okay, so now our probes are into the back of the harness. This is why I'd recommend using the kit off Amazon for your wire with the probe on the end, because it makes it just plug in once you find the wires and check the polarity, instead of trying to cut into the factory harness here and tap onto your wires. If you are going to do that route though, one thing I would recommend is just go ahead and disconnect your harness and pull it out the front. That way you can work on it outside of the headliner, and then you can always tuck it back in and plug it back in. But now that we've got that all connected, you want to make sure you've got a tight connection, and we're going to fish our wires towards the front. So once you have your wires in and you have them back towards the front, coming out of the front, you are ready to snap that clip back in. And now you just have to put the whole dome assembly back together. So now you just have to put the dome assembly back in. So go ahead and clip in the windshield side, and then you just have to snap the side going towards the back seat in, just like that. And now you're going to put your 2 Phillips screws in. Behind each light. You don't have to tighten it too much, just nice and snug. You don't want to crack the plastic that they're holding up against. Alright, now that they're both snug, you can take your lens cover, and same thing, lean it in towards the windshield, and then snap it in. And now your dome assembly is back together. So now, as you can see, we have our wires coming out, one for the mirror, the radar detector, and now our new dash cam. They're hanging out on the side, so we just have to get this wire mold back in. So now that we have the wire mold back in, snapped in at the base, and then that 2 prongs sliding up over here, keeping our wires straight going up it. I'm going to go ahead and plug the radar detector back in. Now we just have to mount our suction cup for the dash cam. The dash cam suction cup that comes with it just has a nice slot right here, and on the top of it there is a slot for it to slide into and click over. If you want to get a mirror mount similar to the one that mounts the radar detector, they do sell them for about $8-9. I just went with the suction cup so that it would go a little bit away from the radar detector. But yeah, and all you got to do is just put this where you want it, twist the lock, and it squeezes down onto the windshield, and then your radar detector's mounted, and we'll just have to plug it in. And there you have it. We have installed the apeman dash cam, hardwired in, so you don't see any wires going down the front. And from where you're sitting, all you can see is your radar detector and a little corner of your dash cam. And I'm going to go ahead and put in an accessory. And they're both starting up. That's exactly what we want. And then they both shut off. The dash cam will take a sec because it does have a backup battery, but it has a sleep mode setting, so that'll go off. Yeah, so that does it for that install. And I'm hoping I might look into getting the mirror mount bracket, maybe change its location, or because it's a suction cup, I'll probably end up moving it around a little bit because WRX has a lot of this black on the upper windshield. So yeah, but the suction cups gives you some mobility to move it. But other than that, we're all finished up with it. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys. And yeah, we'll look forward to the next one.